You're listening to the ED-UCATION series, and I'm Ed-UCATION. And today we have a special guest star.
My name is Seneca Hager. Now, Ed, I had a couple of questions for you on the cybersecurity side of things. What have you seen in all your years of IT, and what are we looking to see in the next couple of years?
Wow, that's a great question and a deep, deep subject. Years ago, nobody spent time hacking computers. There was no such thing as antivirus. There was no such thing for an antivirus because nobody realized that hacking and stealing data that was for sale could become a viable industry. But just to put a small point on it, the country of Romania, and I think this statistic's about 4 years old, part of the Cyber Forensics Training Alliance that I belong to, is stated that the country of Romania had a $681 million income from their cybersecurity theft, meaning they had agencies in their country because at the time it was not illegal for them to hack other countries. It was only illegal for them to hack Romania. They $681 million. They had an HR department. They gave PTO. They had a full working business. It was ridiculous. That was just the tip of the iceberg compared to what we're seeing now. We're seeing more and more hacks, more and more attempts, more and more phishes, more and more breaches, more and more simulations where it looks like your Microsoft prompt exactly the same way your Microsoft prompts you every day is the way that the attacker prompts you now. Very, very difficult for an end user to tell it's a hacker. Very subtle differences. The end user's not ready, if they haven't had cybersecurity training, if there hasn't been proper things on their computers like EDR, a SIM, an MDR, things like that, if they don't have those things on their computer, end users will make the mistake. I think, don't hold me to it, the statistic is 86% of all failures and breaches come from end user interaction, which is insane. And the majority of those come through email. Second one would be web. So what we're seeing is that everybody realizes there's more money in being bad than there is in being good. It's much easier to open a business with a couple of computers and a little bit of AI and start stealing other people's data and selling it on the black web than it is to open a legitimate business and serve customers. It is very difficult, and it is an ongoing fight. We have something called a red team and a blue team thought process, which is the red team breaks in and the blue team defends the break-in. So we have to perform these exercises all day long and do tabletop exercises just to try and simulate what a hacker would do. Ideally, I'd love to hire a hacker that almost went to jail so that I could get somebody in here that could hack at that level. But we have ethical hackers and things like that on our team. It is nonstop, and it is something that I never expected to happen when I first got my computer. Once you could hack an IP address, it didn't stop at a computer anymore. Your TV, your refrigerator, my Samsung TV, my Samsung refrigerator at home has a firmware update with a cybersecurity package on it because my refrigerator has an IP address. And literally today, almost anything with an IP address can be hacked by a user. We just spoke with a client who's potentially got a hack on their printer, and their printer firmware was under attack and was potentially rewritten to be turned into a hacking weapon. Nothing is safe with an IP address. I know the auto industry is very, very concerned over the fact that IP addresses in cars have to be uber protected because the IP address in a car is no different than the IP address on a computer, and the computer in the car is no different than the computer on your desktop. And what you see in a movie is almost always possible once you see it in a movie. If a car's brakes can be taken over, if a car's steering can be taken over, if an engine can be killed by OnStar because it thinks the car's stolen, and imagine everything in that control being controlled by a hacker, someone who's not there for your good. It kind of bothers me that OnStar could turn my car off if they think it was stolen, which means I could be going down the road at 85 miles an hour. Well, let's call it 70 miles an hour on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. 70 miles an hour on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and someone just shut my car off or slam on my brakes. Well, a lot of things have happened when it comes to cybersecurity. Fortunately, we only have to worry about computers. And it's a full-time job. We have a full-time cybersecurity staff, full-time hackers, full-time compliance specialists, everything that it takes to protect the company. And I don't think anybody saw this coming a few years ago.
I would ask you one question. I know I've talked to you about this a couple weeks ago about the movie The Beekeeper, where the woman, she was using her computer and then there was a pop-up. It just randomly popped up. I know I've seen it a couple times on the help desk. How accurate do you think that this movie would be to a real-life scenario?
Completely accurate. I can tell you story after story of people who are now clients where they got an email and fell for that exact same scam, or they clicked on something that looked like a Microsoft login, or they accidentally saved their password in their browser. So when they go to Citizens Bank and they save their username and password and someone gets control of that machine, they empty $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 out of the account before the end user even finds out, because they forgot to turn on 2FA, or because they weren't educated by someone like ourselves. So it is 100% accurate. And I think that Hollywood does a good job portraying what is real.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, one of the things that, let's say, I know a couple of years ago, we had at least 2 or 3 clients come on right after they said that they were hacked or that they had a security breach. If some customer came up to you and said, hey, I'd like to sign on with you. Now, one of the clients I know in particular, they said that they had a really good response with our team and we were able to help them. I think it was right before you had come on, but we were able to help them out as best as possible. What would you say to these clients that just come to you and say, hey, I think we've been hacked and I'd like to sign on with you?
Well, I'd say 2 things to them, one now and one later. I'll get to the one later first. Listen to us when we tell you how to prevent this next time. We know what we're doing, and good managed service providers know what they're doing. So vet your service provider and listen to what they say. They're there to protect you. They don't want to see you hacked. They don't want to see you lose money. They don't want to see you lose data. And they're going to try and put everything in place to stop that. When it comes to someone is hacked, we immediately take all the machines offline. We start looking through logs, looking for the breach point, trying to figure out how long the breach has been on there. And then we go from there. To make a long story short, we have a very big investigative process that goes on, and we can talk about that more in depth in another podcast. Hi, and thanks for tuning in this week to the Education Podcast with myself, Ed, and my special guest star,
Seneca Hager.